A bikie's fighting for life.
Peter Godfrey, or Fuzzy as he's known to his bikie mates, is clinging to life after he was stabbed in the southern Perth suburb of Henderson. The bloke who is alleged to have wielded the knife on Saturday night could be clinging to life himself soon if the Coffin Cheaters have any say in it.
He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue.
The acronym DEFWAC is a common tattoo amongst members of that gang. You'll also see it sewn on jackets. It stands for Don't Ever F with a Cheater. 50-year-old Yanchep man James Robert Whitehead has been charged over the attack.
He'd be nervous.
He should be, whether he's convicted or not, if Godfrey's still a member of the club, and that's unclear at the moment, or if he left the Cheaters on good standing. If that's the case, then Mr Whitehead might have bigger problems than the custodial sentence he faces for aggravated home burglary and aggravated grievous bodily harm, plus whatever the police throw at him. You don't get to stab a coffin cheater without some form of comeuppance, and it's usually violent.
There's gonna be consequences and repercussions.
I don't know what the relationship between Fuzzy and the Cheaters is at the moment, but he was very well regarded about 15 years ago. He's been talked up as a past president of the Cheaters. Don't know if that's the case, because last I checked that club was run by a council. Peter was in charge of the Fremantle chapter for a while, and the Cheaters were using him as their official spokesperson. You don't put someone up to speak on your behalf if you're a bit unsure of how staunch they are.
So much for the bikie code of silence.
It's a code that's applied selectively. Sometimes you just can't shut them up. Back then, Godfrey was front and centre of a campaign against the previous Liberal WA government's crackdown on bikies. He was the Cheaters' voice on the United Motorcycle Council of WA. The original UMCWA comprised representatives from the Coffin Cheaters, Club Deros, Gypsy Jokers, God's Garbage, Outlaws, Rebels and Vietnam veterans. The Finks, which were recruiting aggressively in WA around the time in 2009, weren't founding members of the WA Council, but Fuzzy Godfrey said he expected them to join.
Why the hold-up?
A senior New South Wales Fink called Ferret said, and I quote, "We just have to work a couple of little things out."
Little things like what?
Like this guy.
You always talk about...
Troy McCanty's decision to establish a WA chapter of the Finks after he was expelled from the Cheaters caused something of a frightful hoo-ha in the underworld. And those great champions of modern diplomacy, Ferret and Fuzzy, had some talking to do.
We can work it out together.
Fuzzy and the rest of the UMCWA councillors set aside their traditional rivalries because, much like the rebels in Star Wars, they needed to join forces to fight the Emperor. Colin Barnett had put his Attorney General, Christian Porter, on point in the never-ending war on outlaws. Ferret thought Christian was being a bit willing in his pursuit.
We are together just to ride our bikes and have a good time.
So did Eric from the Club Deros.
I only came in this morning for a response to Christian Porter's accusations yesterday that we're all criminals, and we're not.
The bikies warned us in 2009 that Porter's proposed anti-association laws would see police target other suspected criminal organisations, and they actually named the Catholic Church and the West Coast Eagles as two institutions which might fall foul of the draconian laws.
This unkempt youngster just might be onto something.
They didn't have much to worry about in the end because Porter's crackdown on the underworld had the net result of a threefold increase in both the number of gangs and the number of patched members, which turned out to be good news for Christian because it guaranteed him a lucrative time as a criminal defence lawyer in his life after politics. The abject failure of the laws was also good for John Quigley because he got to savage the anti-association provisions as draconian when he was Shadow Attorney General. No! And then take the high moral ground while introducing almost exactly the same laws a decade later as actual Attorney General. Yes, this rocks! I'm Ben Harvey.